Today we're going to talk about the life of one of Howard University's first legal strategists against segregation, Thurgood Marshall. In the early 1930s, a young and determined Marshall commuted from Baltimore, Maryland to Washington, D.C. 6 days a week to attend classes at 8 a.m. at Howard University Law School. His choice to attend Howard was born out of necessity, after the University of Maryland Law School denied him admission because he was Black. It was this redirection of schools that led him on a path to Howard, where he was mentored by prominent civil rights attorney Charles Hamilton Houston. It was his journey in Washington, D.C. that propelled him into a nearly 60-year career fighting for justice and equality for African Americans. Welcome to another episode of Who Lives Here? A Case for Equal Space. At the time of Marshall's birth in 1908, Baltimore had the country's fourth largest urban Black population. But where Thurgood Marshall grew up in Old West Baltimore, the neighborhood was already integrated. And Marshall learned at a young age that it was important to stand up against racism. Growing up, Marshall was taught by his father, William Marshall, to not tolerate racist remarks from white people. William Marshall was a fair-skinned, well-read man who waited at Baltimore country clubs, railroad dining cars, and hotels until Thurgood went to college at Lincoln University in 1926. It was Thurgood Marshall's father who trained him and his eldest brother Aubrey to respond to race-based remarks quickly and directly. Him and his wife Norma paid close attention as well to their schoolwork. So Thurgood Marshall credited his passion to succeed in competitive debating to how he was raised by his father. He said this in quotes, "He did it by teaching me to argue, by challenging my logic on every point, by making me prove every statement. He never told me to be a lawyer, but he turned me into one." At Howard University, he served as student assistant librarian for 2 years. He was a member of the Court of Peers for 1 year and Chief Justice of the Court of Peers during his senior year. After he graduated Howard University, Marshall became the NAACP's chief legal counsel in 1936. And it was him and a tenacious group of Howard lawyers, including William Hastie and James Navarrete, who worked together between Washington, D.C. and New York, strategizing and meeting at places like the historic 12th Street YMCA, where we're standing right now today, and the NAACP headquarters, challenging the legal system that viewed people of color as second-class citizens. And they did this case by case. During his time at the NAACP, Marshall argued several groundbreaking cases before the Supreme Court, including his most prominent case, the landmark case of Brown versus Board of Education. This case in 1954 is what led to the desegregation of public schools in the United States. It was a fight for equal space and public accommodations in schools, challenging the separate but equal doctrine that was established by the Supreme Court in the Plessy versus Ferguson case all the way back in 1896. It was that case that allowed for segregation in public facilities as long as they were deemed quote-unquote equal. However, several Black families in Kansas challenged this law, and with the help of Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, they successfully argued that segregation in public education violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. It was them challenging this that led to Marshall's victory, which had far-reaching implications beyond just education. In fact, this case propelled other civil rights attorneys and judges and became a catalyst for the broader civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. These movements would later overturn segregation and public accommodations with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and put a stop to discriminatory housing practices and redlining in 1968 with the Fair Housing Act. In 1967, Thurgood Marshall made history once again when he was appointed as the first African-American justice of the United States Supreme Court by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Throughout his tenure on the court, Marshall remained a steadfast advocate for civil rights and equality until he retired in 1991. His legacy as a champion for justice continues to inspire generations, reminding us of the importance of fighting for equal rights and opportunities for everyone. So join me on the next episode of Who Lives Here? A Case for Equal Space. Can't wait to see you. Bye.